We spent the night before our trek at a friend's cabin, which was located only 10 minutes from the Waterton National Park border. We enjoyed a dinner of spaghetti and prosecco. After running to the American border, we arrived at the start of the GDT at 8 a.m. The day was bluebird without a breath of wind. We ran the next 25k with light hiking packs until we reached Red Rock Canyon. When we reached the canyon, Matt was there with a delicious lunch, and then we picked up our heavier hiking packs and headed up towards Twin Lakes. After a quick skinny dip in the lakes, we went up towards Sage Pass and exited Waterton National Park. Now we would push along the ridge tops with expansive views until we reached our campsite for the night at Jetland Creek. The next morning, we got up early to tackle the technical section of trail known as the Culotte Ridge. We baked in the heat as we climbed over the many false summits, but it was a windless day and the views were amazing. We found patches of snow along the way and enjoyed making snow angels to cool ourselves off. Eventually, we came off the ridge and met Brian at Castle Mountain Resort, where he is waiting for us with our resupply and cold beers. Later that evening, we met him again, where he'd set up a camp and had hot stew waiting for us for dinner. On day 3, we hiked into Crow's Nest Pass and enjoyed freezing cold Slurpees on the cool concrete. We also treated our blisters. Our feet were being ravaged by the hot days. From there, we headed out and began our trek along the High Rock Trail, eventually stopping to camp at Window Mountain Lake that evening. The next morning, we headed up to finish our trek along the High Rock Trail. Blisters were ravaging our feet, and Alicia needed an emergency supply of new socks. So we used the InReach to phone Brian and do some online shopping.
Good morning. I am filming. You guys, girls look great. Alicia has an awesome stance going on here. A few foot issues. We're battling through. Check that out. Right, we just came up a very steep, direct climb. Good way to start out the day. Very impressive views.
Brian met us at the end of the High Rock Trail with a resupply for the next few days, as well as some emergency socks for Alicia's blistered feet. We continued on up to Tornado Pass, optimistic that we would solve our foot issues. The pass is steep and rocky. Nicola did an amazing job of pushing Alicia along, who was struggling a bit with the exposure.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I came up here, but you guys can do, that's what I was saying, there's an option.
reached the top of the pass about 2 hours before sunset. We enjoyed a dinner up top and then put on some power music and ran all the way down to our campsite. The next day, the trail traversed beautiful alpine meadows bursting with wildflowers. I was continually amazed by the beauty around us. Unfortunately, Alicia continued to struggle with foot issues, and we began to realize that we might not be able to continue as a team of 3. Later that evening, we continued on and thunderstorms threatened overhead. They were the first clouds we'd seen of our whole trek. Nearing our camp, we came across 2 grizzly bears, surprising us seeing as we hadn't seen any wildlife along the way. After a brief review of bear safety, we continued on. No one was hurt. The bears had crashed off into the woods. The next morning, we were all excited to reach the top of a ridge which had cell phone reception. We called our loved ones, and an exit plan started to be formed for Alicia and her poor feet. The pain had increased so much by this point that she was in tears, struggling to continue along the trail. We continued our trek up and over Fording River Pass, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful places on earth. From the top of the pass, it was a steep descent down to Aldridge Creek and eventually down to the Elk Valley Road. When we reached the road, Nicola and I parted ways with Alicia. The plan was for Alicia to find a way to hitchhike into Sparwood and eventually make her way back to Calgary. Meanwhile, Nicola and I continued down the road for another 30 kilometers in the baking hot heat. By the time we reached Elk Lakes, we were miserable from our road trudge. Thankfully, hiking along the trail rejuvenated us, and by the time we reached Kananaskis Lakes, we were feeling energized and very grateful to see our crew. We were ready for a good dinner and a good night's sleep.